Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. I got a video today from Hans Y. He's going to explain self-hating Asians to everyone. I think this is actually an interesting topic. Please like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Let's get that chow. It's chow time.
You might think a self-hating Asian is an Asian who hates being Asian, but it's actually worse. Historically, self-hating Asians are known as Anna Lu and Uncle Chan, similar to Uncle Tom, a term describing a person of color who thinks their race is inferior. And
isn't that funny that we have similar words for both communities, Uncle Chan and Uncle Tom?
participates in their own oppression. Typical self-hating Asian behaviors include putting down their own race to entertain other races.
And people are always like, you don't like Asian guys? I'm like, no, I like regular people.
Putting down other members of their own race for no reason.
They just watch
Remember her? I did a whole video on her.
Anime all day, play video games all day, and you're an incel.
Being very vocal about how much they hate Asians and being Asian. And 4, believing that if they reject their Asian side, it makes them better than other Asians.
I forget that I'm Asian sometimes.
If you look online,
That's crazy. What he's going over, I deal with quite often with other people. I love being Asian. I've always loved it ever since I was a kid. And I always thought that Asians were like the greatest, you know, when I was a kid. I'm not trying to say like we're better than others or better race, because I was Asian. I'm part of it. So of course I would think we're great.
you will find many Asians consider self-hating Asians to be worse than non-Asian racists. That's because self-hating Asians can get away with being racist to Asians because they are also technically Asian. This makes them even more harmful
sense.
because their racism is often unchallenged. What's worse is that self-hating Asians will still try to represent and speak on behalf of Asians on topics like
Damn, he is right. Yes. Asians that hate on Asians that don't like being Asians want to represent us as being Asian? Get the fuck out of here.
discrimination. They will confirm and perpetuate negative stereotypes. They will downplay racism.
Wuhan! Why you eat that bat? Why you eat that bat?
Like, I saw your tray flip. It was bad.
Unless it affects them personally.
Nobody stepped in.
Yeah, why?
I've had f***ing directors call me a pan-faced
And they will even give people permission to be racist against Asians, which is ridiculous. Can you imagine one black person saying it's okay to make slavery jokes and everyone just saying, oh, okay then, it's okay to make slavery jokes. Behaviors like
Makes
this
sense.
make it hard for people to challenge racism and discrimination because they see someone who is being discriminated against say it's not a big deal. This is especially problematic if the self-hating Asian has a large platform because they can influence and shape how Asians see themselves, and they can spread their self-hatred onto other Asians. Other YouTubers have discussed in detail the negative effects of Lu's on
Chang Nation. I'll cover him quite decently.
Asian men. When Lus with large platforms spread negative generalizations about all Asian men, sometimes for no reason at all.
I'm not into Asian guys. Why not? Something that I can't tolerate.
It can damage the self-esteem of young Asian men, and the negative
I mean, how many people do you guys know that can't tolerate their own race or tolerate their own people? I know black community is one, but very few others actually.
negatively affect the way all Asian men are viewed by society. And of course, this problem extends to all negative racial generalizations perpetuated by self-hating Asians. All Asians are affected by their actions and become chained to outdated stereotypes assigned to them based on their race.
The hate. There's so much hate.
And if the very same comments made by self-hating Asians were made by people who were not Asian, they would be called out for being racist. The irony is, regardless of how much self-hating Asians hate Asians, racists will still pick on them because they are Asian. But no one just wakes up one
True.
day and decides to hate themselves. So why do people become self-hating Asians? The biggest reason is internalized racism, a form of self-hatred defined as beliefs about one's own inferiority, weaknesses, or shortcomings as a function of a membership in an oppressed group. Internalized racism causes Asians to believe they are inferior and behave in ways that perpetuate and reinforce racism towards Asians. And the worst part is, people may not even be be aware of their own internalized hatred, but what causes internalized racism? For previous generations, Asians in Western countries were constantly bombarded with anti-Asian propaganda and racism, and when you have to deal with constant discrimination, it can be easy to understand why so many Asians start hating being Asian. And as previously mentioned, self-hating Asians are likely to pass on their hatred to their children.
There's actually a lot of stories of people that I know growing up that they weren't allowed to speak their own languages. They weren't allowed to speak Chinese. Their grandma was very adamant about everybody speaking English and you acclimating to society here in the United States. So they didn't even teach their kids and their offsprings Chinese. Like, I have a friend that is half white, half Chinese, never spoken Chinese ever in her life, and never even heard her grandma speak Chinese. But that's how much like the Western civilization kind of pushed out on everybody, which is fair because we're in another country, so it makes sense that we acclimate towards this country. But it also shows that the prevailing narrative of most Asians is to be accepted.
The best recent example of mass discrimination against Asians is
the Chinese flu, China, Kung flu.
During which every single Asian person became personally responsible for all the bad things happening in the world. Asians also face constant microaggressions and racial abuse that can destroy their self-esteem over time, especially those born in Western countries who are never truly accepted because of their race. The media also plays a large role in internalized racism. One example is how they define society's beauty standards. Typically for women, blonde hair, blue eyes, and light skin are portrayed as the pinnacle of beauty, while many Asian features have been the target of racial slurs and gestures. Many young Asian women have lower self-esteem and start resenting their Asian features, as evidenced by the explosive growth of cosmetic surgeries and skin whitening products. And in terms of pop culture representation, Asian men are typically shown as emasculated clowns, while Asian women are often fetishized and depicted as overly subservient. You will also never hear about the John Cho's and Kumail Nanjiani's standing up against racial humor, but your screens will be filled with Ken Jeong's playing every single Asian stereotype. Social media is even worse. Asian men are constantly told they are undesirable.
What's one race you laddies wouldn't date?
Asian.
Asian men are generally perceived as unattractive.
The biggest Asian...
Hey, I don't even care that we're bottom of the totem pole in attractiveness. I'm doing okay. I think it sucks, but what are we going to do? This is how society portrayed and put everybody in this special little box.
Influencers in the Western world make fun of their culture and race for other people to laugh at. Comment sections are always full of racists. All these factors combined, it's easy to understand why so many Asians eventually become self-hating Asians. Sometimes in the hope that it will somehow save them from racism. It won't. So what can we do about self-hating Asians? Remember, while they are victims of hate, they also reinforce and spread more hate, and it can be contagious. That's why one thing everyone should do first is tell them to shut the up. Tell them to stop making negative generalizations about billions of people. Tell them to stop attacking an entire race for no reason. Tell them to stop disrespecting their family and ancestors. Remember, some of their families escaped the war-torn countries just so they can...
This is actually the major problem. This is the major reason why I did this video, is they forgot where they came from. A lot of these immigrants, a lot of these first, second generation kids don't remember where they came from. My mother and father went to the Khmer Rouge. If you guys have seen The Killing Field, I don't know if you guys watched it, you guys want to watch it, it's a great documentary / dramatization. And it wasn't even that dramatized according to my father. It's one of my father's favorite movie. He said the River of Bones in that movie did not do the real River of Bones justice. The smell, the putridness, and just the sheer amount of bones and bodies that was in that river was not correctly depicted in that movie, according to my father. These people came from nothing to a country that they didn't speak the language. didn't know anything, struggled their asses off to give you what you have now, and then you look down upon where we came from. You look down upon the culture that we have. You look down upon our own features that we've, brought over here. That is crazy.
Have a better life and more freedom. And here they are being ungrateful and hating on their family for being Asian. And when you see a comment like, "As a nation, I can confirm we are all weak losers," tell them to speak for themselves. Say, just because you are a weak loser who happens to be Asian doesn't mean all Asians are weak losers. Tell them to have more pride. Pride is not thinking your race is better than every other race. It's just liking your own race and not hating yourself. The more challenging question is, how do we cure self-hating Asians? There are many suggestions like finding positive Asian.
This freaking man of all men right here. Jesus Christ. The highest achieving man in the world. Bow down to this guy. Freaking Asian astronaut. Freaking everything. He is the American dream put into one Asian man right here.
Role models, actively calling out self-hating behaviors when you see it, fighting back against racism and discrimination, no matter what form they take, having better representations of Asians in all media, especially social media, and of course, celebrating diversity and broadening our definition.
I love you guys. Appreciate you guys so much for me being Asian, and then I have so many of you guys follow me and listen to some of the stupid things I say. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that I can be a representation of Asians in the manosphere space, in the red pill type space, to help fight for men of all races. I appreciate and love that you guys have given me this platform to at least speak on some of the things I do care about. I don't speak about Asian issues all that much, but I also don't feel a lot of these Asian issues myself, just because I've always lived in the inner city, and I've always been surrounded by every race. I actually don't, my group of friends, I am the only Asian in it, so it's a little bit difficult for me to experience what a lot of other Asian men are experiencing, because I've experienced it when I was younger. Now that I'm older, I've never really experienced racism all that much. But then again, I also don't go out as often, and I usually only go to places that are a lot Asian heavy just because I like Asian food.
Of beauty. It's not a perfect science, and the solution for every self-hating Asian will be different. But now,
isn't it crazy too that the beauty standards is Western standards, but most Western people love the beauty standards of Asians, or the standard Asian beauty
that you know about self-hating Asians. The very least you should do is to challenge their negative beliefs about themselves and their race. And if you are a self-hating Asian, here's the honest truth. You are Asian, and you will always be Asian. The people making you feel inferior will never see you as an equal. Likewise, Asians who respect themselves will never respect you because you hate your own race. Your current course of action is absolutely unacceptable. For even feral animals have a sense of loyalty to their own. But it's not entirely your fault, and there is still time to change. You can either keep hating yourself for being Asian and wish for an alternative reality that will never come to be, or you can start embracing who you are, celebrating your differences, and basing your self-worth on your achievements and the strength of your character. Stop hating yourself and become someone you can be proud of.
Damn, shoutouts to Hans. That was really good. I tell the truth, I don't think it really affects only Asians or blacks or anybody. I think this happens a lot in the Western culture because the Western culture is dominated by white media, white things. It makes sense. I'm not blaming white people or anything for it, but it really makes it so people that are born here really want to acclimate to the majority, and the majority is somewhat white. So it's crazy that there are self-hating people of every race, not just Asians. I just happen to do this one because, I'm Asian. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.